I'm still waking up at 4:45, no matter what I do. My body is set on 5 o'clock as my wake up time. So I guess I'm going to keep the live time at 7 a.m., but I might switch it back to 6 just because it's, it's just kind of my routine now. So we'll see how it goes. Sleep's still good. So anyway, I hope you're sleeping well. They say sleep is the best meditation. So do what you got to do to get that sleep in. And if you're not getting good sleep, and you need any kind of thoughts or advice or guidance on how to get better sleep, let me know. And then lastly, before we get into it, practicing mindfulness over time will support your sleep, because so much of sleep is disrupted by thinking, holding on to things, trying to get things figured out, trying to plan, trying to square away, trying to make everything fit. Any kind of really thinking, and it's not like daydreaming where your thoughts are kind of like just floating around. It's like pointed thoughts here, pointed thoughts there, pointed thoughts here, pointed thoughts there. There's a very big response to your body if it's like this. If this, just kind of just like, whatever, daydreaming, blah, blah, blah. But if there's a difference. So this actually speaks precisely to today's stanza. This is arguably my favorite stanza. There's another one that comes, I think, in the 80s. But this is my favorite stanza. This is definitely my favorite stanza. And it kind of speaks to this sleep idea. But the stanza goes like this. Excuse me. If you have not linked yourself to true emptiness, you will never understand the art of peace. If you have not linked yourself to true emptiness, you will never understand the art of peace. So let that kind of simmer as you get yourself set. You got crisscross applesauce, which is, the style where you just cross your legs like that. You got your knees, so you can kind of sit like this. If you want to sit, so it's knees. And then also you got your chair. So don't think that you have to sit in a particular way in order to benefit from the practice. That's irrelevant. How you sit is not as important as getting comfortable. That's really important. You want to see the stuff, the sensations, all the kinds of things as a form of fullness. So the more comfortable you can get, the quieter your body can be. I'm good, your feet are good, I'm good. That's more empty. And the more empty you are, the more you can kind of focus your presence on whatever I encourage you to focus your presence on, as opposed to whatever else is around there. Okay? That's an aspect of emptiness. We'll get into it deeper, but okay. So here comes first bell. Sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Taming the mind. Taming the mind brings the mind out of one aspect of fullness, which is time. Out of the past and out of the future into the present moment. So one aspect of fullness is the present, is time. So getting out of that, emptying the mind of time, is coming into the present moment. So the way you do that is by focusing on something you know is taking place in the present moment. So, sight picture. What do you see? Might as well keep my eyes open here. What do you see? What shapes do you see? You can call them out. It's like a rectangle, square, square, rectangle, circle, rectangle, 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 square. Calling things out in the present moment brings the mind into the moment. Another thing is curiosity. So light and shadow, light and shadow. Whatever the mind is kind of fixated on, thinking about whatever, you come to the present moment, focus on light and shadow. The mind empties of time, it comes into the present moment. Once that's squared away, once you feel kind of safe, okay, close your eyes. Now, reinforce your sense of safety. Now, safety is also another way to think of predictability, right? So how predictable is the environment that you're in? Once you close your eyes, you kind of agree that what you've seen is predictable enough to close your eyes, but just double check again with your sense of sound. So use your sense of sound to reinforce to your central nervous system. Remember, your central nervous system is a warrior central nervous system. A warrior central nervous system is set to detect threat. Now, you might also be a central nervous system that's kind of full of addiction. So full of things that kind of, it's like a central nervous system that has to be fed all the time with a particular thing. And a central nervous system built around that is filled with kind of desire for that. So when you empty that by coming into the present moment, what you're saying to your central nervous system is that we're here right now, and look, listen, feel, it's okay. It's okay. Look, listen, feel right now. It's okay. All this other stuff is later. Right now, it's okay. Touch. So the touch of air, touch of breeze, the touch of the fabric of your clothing, also taking place in the present moment. So the very first part of Armor Down Mindfulness is taming the mind, or emptying the mind of time. That's another way to think about it. Emptying the mind of time by focusing on the present moment. So what you're doing is you're settling your awareness on the present moment, which starts to settle your central nervous system. And then we go into second bell. And in second bell, you take the central nervous system into itself. And so into its kind of offshoots. So your central nervous system travels all the way through your body. And when you go into parts of your body with your awareness, you're basically having a conversation with your central nervous system and kind of coaxing your central nervous system further and further into what's called the parasympathetic side of your central nervous system. And that's the side of your central nervous system where everything's kind of cool and quiet and gentle and smooth and easy and at peace and relaxed. And the way you cultivate that is over time, right? So it's a little bit confusing. Like we're emptying ourselves of time, okay, to come into the present moment. The present moment has no past and future. It's just the present moment. So then we want to spend time in presence, time spent in present tense. So you want to get your awareness around this notion that you're spending time focusing on what's happening right now, and the systemic impact of that focus is parasympathetic dominance. So parasympathetic dominance lowers blood pressure, quiets things down, softens muscles, softens bodies. Just things start to soften, things start to let go, things start to slow down, things start to digest. All these things start to happen as you spend more time in the present tense. So you start with what you're connected to, what's beneath you, what's your ground, what are you sitting on, how are you sitting? And And so you're noticing where your body is connected to the ground beneath you. So if you're in crisscross applesauce, it's the outside edges, it's the ankles, it's the shins, it's the rear end, hopefully on an armor down cushion. If you're sitting on your knees, notice your knees, notice your shins, notice the tops of your feet. If you're seated in a chair, you notice around your buttocks, you notice the bottom of your feet, your lower back on the chair. So these are all things that you put your attention on. And so your attention empties of time and fills with presence. Okay, empties of time and fills with presence. Time has past, future. The present is just the present. From there, you move into your pelvis. So when you move into your pelvis, you're moving into parts of your body, or the part of your body that is full of all kinds of different things. So the pelvis has your genitals, pelvic bowl, your hip flexors, your hip joints, all this big stuff, lumbar spine, and you're just basically going to that space and saying, how are you? Is there anything I can do for you that will make you more comfortable? Do I need to shift a little bit? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And your pelvis is going to tell you. It's going to tell you by its comfort. And the more it talks, right, the more it says, this is uncomfortable, that's uncomfortable, the more you want to attend to it. The less it has to say, the quieter it is, the emptier it is, the clearer the indication that it's fine. And so from there, you can move up into your core. So the same with the core. Talk to your core a little bit. What's going on? How you doing? Could I facilitate greater emptiness? Emptiness being any tension, any holding that doesn't need to be there. And what's so interesting is as you become more familiar with emptiness, greater clarity arises. And what that means is there's layers of stuff that we're often unaware of. And the quieter we get, the more we recognize these layers, and the more we can empty ourselves of these layers, the more we start to recognize what was there all along. And what was there all along is kind of a cohesion that begins from that first moment you decide to become present. You started to spend more time in presence. So now you're up to your heart space, and you've spent almost 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm talking about emptying yourself of time. So if I'm confusing you, I'm sorry. But the idea is time spent in present tense. So if you spend 2 minutes present, focused on right now, that's 2 minutes leading yourself into the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. So all these wonderful things are happening inside your system. And as that's happening, layers and layers of stuff, right, that may operate beyond your notice, may start to become present for you. You're like, oh, there's a holding pattern there I didn't notice. You can let that go. You get to the heart space where you've got your ribs and your shoulder blades, right? Your ribs, your shoulder blades, and your collarbones. You might come to your heart space and be like, oh my gosh, I've been holding my shoulders up like towards my ears. I didn't even realize it. So you let that go. You empty the heart space of any holding. You're just getting to an empty space, kind of a zero, right? What zero does is zero sets the stage for movement in any direction. And so that's what emptiness does. Emptiness isn't an absence of, it's a recognition of the ultimate potential for. It's all the holding that we have that we kind of do unconsciously that gets in the way of our best. And so when we can empty ourselves of all those patterns that are mostly unconsciously maintained, and we become empty, new things show up. New potential shows up. And again, you go to the throat space. That potential is compounded by the freedom of letting things go. Letting go of burdens. Think about the burden of a tight muscle. A muscle that's just sustained all the time. So like your jaw. Like let's add jaw to throat space here. Imagine just tight jaw all the time. All the time. And imagine just like letting it go. Letting that tension go. Now imagine a tight jaw that you don't even notice is tight. You're operating like this. You're talking like this. You're living your life like this, and you don't even realize it. You don't even realize that you're clenched all the time, and you're just operating at this level, thinking that this is the way it's supposed to be, or this is the way it is. This is the way it's always going to be. And then you get quieter. You get quiet for like a minute, 2 minutes, and all of a sudden you notice, holy shit, my jaw is locked tight. And you just go, ah, and you release that. You empty the jaw of that tightness. And all of a sudden things change. What it means to empty. So now you get to the top of your head. You kind of go back through the body. Okay. I've gone through my ground, my pelvis, my core, my heart, my throat. Now I'm at the top of the head. And just kind of a feel of the body. Just a feel of the body as it is. You know, kind of like cleaning a windshield, right? You're looking through a windshield and it's full of gook. And so you've maybe gotten used to looking through a gook-filled windshield, and then all of a sudden you clean it all up, and now all of a sudden it's clear, and you're looking through it for the first time, and you're noticing all these things that you didn't notice before, and it's just like, whoa, okay, didn't notice that. And so then you take it a little bit further, and now you're starting to not just tame the mind, not just kind of empty the body, tame the mind of time, empty the mind of time by going into the present, and empty the body of tension. You're now going deeper. You're going into an inner action, right? Because everything takes place in a dynamic context. There's no operating in isolation. Okay, so you get to the third bell. You get to third bell, and now you're into breath. So now you're into the experience of practicing something that can support not only continuing to spend time in the present moment, but also stimulating the central nervous system at a deeper level. So when you take that full breath in, feel the way the body expands, and then when you empty your body of the breath, notice how your body just settles and contracts. Do that a couple times, full max in. And let it go. So one more, full in. And let it go. Your breath is the kind of the barometer that your central nervous system kind of aligns itself with. So how you're breathing and how your central nervous system is leaning, sympathetic, parasympathetic, is very tied together. And so, like I said in the beginning, your thoughts, right? Your thoughts are things that can fill you up, right? And there's a difference between daydreaming and thinking. Thinking is an analysis. Thinking is working the brain. Thinking works the brain. Daydreaming, when your mind flops here, pops there, blah, 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 that's just firings of the brain. It's like a sputterings of the brain. Thinking, on the other hand, thinking is using the brain. So when you get to the breath, you start to practice the basic skill of navigating and managing the thinking experience, or your thought thinking potential. And so every time you're practicing your breath, you're practicing stimulating and interacting with the central nervous system in a very conscious way, as opposed to the way just thinking can stimulate the nervous system in an unconscious way. So the difference is very big. One is a byproduct of being alive, just thinking, right? And that can be done, and it's mostly done completely without someone's awareness or control. They just think because they think, and life just happens, and it's cultural and expectation built, and whatever. It's just happens. But when you start to get into the breath, full in, full out, you start to take ownership. You start to take ownership over your thoughts. Because there's now a distinction. There's a distinction between thinking and who's doing the thinking. Thinking and who's doing the thinking. So when you're focused on your breath and you focus on the inhale and the exhale, fully focused, you're doing that. Now if you're breathing and thoughts show up, then clearly you're not your thoughts. So if you're taking full, smooth breaths, go ahead and take a full in and a full out. During that time, you might have experienced thoughts. You might have experienced your thoughts thinking. But the key distinction is you experienced your thoughts thinking. You aren't your thoughts. You experienced your thoughts thinking. You are not your thoughts. So when you're focused on your breath and you bring your awareness back to your breath, you're reinforcing this dynamic that you are not your thoughts, you have thoughts. And that's so important, because if you want to understand the art of peace, you have to understand. You have to understand that your thoughts are filling you up. And the reason they're filling you up is because you think you are your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You have thoughts, but you're not your thoughts. So when you focus on that full inhale, full exhale, you're practicing what you really are. And what you really are is an awareness that has agency over time, space, breath, thinking. All the things that fill up life, you have agency over. Meaning, you can't control life, but you can control how much of life you take on as who you are. And when you understand that you have that choice at any given time, you can empty that. You can empty it by taming the mind, focusing on something in the present, spending time in the present moment, and then focusing on the breath. You can empty the moment by doing those things. It's what we do every single morning. Every single morning is we empty the moment of everything that we typically think about and just come into the breathing. And the reason why we come into the breathing and settle fully is so that when we get to the fourth bell, when we get to take this stuff into the day, what we're taking into the day is the capacity to let go of all the things that have typically defined our lives. And by recognizing that the things that define our lives are a kind of fullness that we can empty. It's a fullness that we can empty and let go. By understanding that and then practicing it on a regular basis, we can then begin to see, oh snap, all this stuff that defines me, that keeps me so kind of engaged with stuff that maybe happened in the past, or engaged with stuff that needs to happen in the future. All those things, they don't have to always be there. That's cool. So, fourth or fifth stanza, also I've kind of redefined the fifth stanza in this way. What gets in the way is thought. Thoughts about the future, memories from the past. Worse still is that your thoughts and your body are one. Your body talks with sensation, the mind with thoughts. You will learn to be able to feel what you feel and think what you think without being swayed. Like a mountain in a blizzard, the mountain doesn't mind. So I'll just finish with this. Let's see if I have it over here. Yeah, let me grab it. So my entire life, this was my team. This is my team. This team and time spent rooting for this team has been 40 years. 40 years. This has been my team. 3 Super Bowls. I saw 2 of them. Not there, but I saw them on TV. I saw the Bills and the Broncos. I saw this team beat the Bills, and I saw this team beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl. And it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. And not only was it an amazing moment, to relive the moment each time I watched highlights, it was just the best. I've been to dozens and dozens of games. We had season tickets for a while. Most of my college years was spent going to the games with friends. Family trips to the games. It filled me with unbelievable amounts of life, like lots of joy, okay, but also lots of suffering. Oh gosh, and lots of just like misunderstood suffering. Like, why is this so bad? Or like, what the heck's going on? Or why is this team so stupid? And so it just was filled. And so when it started to become more clear that the name of the team was no longer appropriate, I rejected it. And I rejected it because I was filled with all my memories and my experience of the team. And because I was filled with my memories, the thought of other statements or the other notions about the name, etc., that wasn't me. That wasn't my way of doing it. So I'm filled with all those memories, filled with them. That said, I know what the essence of emptiness is. I know that this is it's just a thing. It just is. And I can let it go. And I can feel the sadness, and I can let that go. And intellectually, I can see the problems with it. And intellectually, I can see how I have played a role in the maintenance of those problems. In my heart, there was no discrimination. But in my mind, I understand how I contributed to it. And so I've decided to say goodbye. And I feel sad. But I'm also looking forward to having coffee. I'm also looking forward to getting a cup of coffee. But that's it, right? If you don't understand true emptiness, you'll never understand the art of peace. And that's what we're talking about. So every single morning when we get in here and we get focused on the present moment and we spend time in the present moment, we're practicing emptying, okay? Emptying and being present with what's there when there's emptiness, which seems counterintuitive. What do you mean? How could something be there if it's empty? It's this relationship between form and formlessness. So we give form to emptiness, and our actions give form to emptiness. Now, fullness can also work in reverse. Being full can give wait. If emptiness can give action, yeah. So when we're full, we can take our fullness into action, and we can be operating from the past. So a way to think about that is, oh, it's the greatest game. I didn't think that way. Da, 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 da. I'm not giving up the name. I'm going to keep using the name. I don't care. Da, 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 da. I didn't, that's fullness, right? And so you're fighting something that is unnecessary. But because it's your thing, and because you did it, and because it's your past, and because you're fixated on your past and fixated on your memories and all this other kind of stuff and all your thoughts. Your thoughts are you instead of you have thoughts. You think you are your thoughts. Da, da, da. That's fullness. And that kind of experience is what's driving you as opposed to you driving it. So if you want to be in the driver's seat, you got to understand true emptiness. And if you're having any trouble on this, again, like I said, this was one of my favorite stanzas. So I'd love to talk to you further about it if you like. Let's see who's on. Is there anybody here? And say hi, and then we'll get out of here. Ooh. What's up, Sergeant G? My NCOI? Yes. What's up with that? All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to finish up the way I started earlier. May your sights be clear. May you find harmony with your body, and may your life be filled with things that you find meaningful and purpose-filled. All right. I will see you guys. I'll see you folks on Monday. Later.